We are taking control of our future. We'll no longer rely on others. These defense investments will strengthen our military's presence.
4 remote Arctic cities, and one extraordinary geopolitical signal that North America's security balance may be entering a new and uncertain phase. After President Donald Trump revived controversial rhetoric suggesting Canada could become the 51st state,
to which I said, well, why don't you just join our country, become the 51st state?
And floated renewed interest in U.S. control of Greenland.
Greenland is a wonderful place. We need it for international security.
Ottawa has now responded with one of the largest Arctic defense commitments in modern Canadian history.
We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is.
This is not just about new military bases. It is about sovereignty, trade routes, energy security, and the rapidly changing strategic value of the Arctic itself.
The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide.
Before we continue, if you appreciate calm, detailed global news coverage like this, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts below. Today we are looking at a major development that could reshape security thinking across North America and beyond. Canada's government has formally announced plans to invest $32 billion, approximately $24 billion US, into new Arctic military infrastructure, marking a decisive shift in how the country prepares for geopolitical pressure in the far north.
Canada's new government has been clear that true Canadian sovereignty is anchored right here in a strong and secure north.
This move follows a period of heightened rhetoric and strategic uncertainty surrounding Arctic sovereignty, territorial influence, and access to emerging global trade routes made possible by climate change. For many observers, this moment represents more than defense spending. It signals a deeper transformation in how nations prepare for a future where geography itself is becoming newly contested. Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed that Canada will construct or expand military installations in Yellowknife, Inuvik, Iqaluit, and Goose Bay, 4 strategically important northern locations that collectively form a defensive arc across the country's Arctic frontier.
Announced that the Canadian Armed Forces would establish a sustained year-round presence in the Arctic to protect our sovereignty across land, air, and sea.
These bases are expected to enhance surveillance, rapid deployment capabilities, logistical resilience, and year-round operational presence in regions that were historically difficult to defend due to extreme weather and isolation. Speaking during the announcement in Yellowknife, Carney framed the initiative as a long-term sovereignty strategy. The message was clear. Canada intends to strengthen its ability to defend its northern territory independently, even while remaining a key member of NATO and maintaining close security ties with the United States.
We are taking control of our future. We'll no longer rely on others to defend our Arctic security or to fuel our economy.
To understand why this announcement matters, we must look beyond the immediate political tension. The Arctic is undergoing rapid transformation. Rising global temperatures are reducing sea ice coverage, potentially opening new shipping routes between Asia, Europe, and North America that could shorten transit times by thousands of kilometers. At the same time, geological surveys suggest the Arctic may hold up to 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and nearly 30% of its untapped natural gas resources.
These defense investments will strengthen our military's presence, and at the same time, what they will require is new energy infrastructure, new broadband, new telecommunication services, new wastewater services. What that means is as we build these military operations, we can transform and benefit the surrounding communities. The combination of these defense investments with the nation-building projects we're announcing today will strengthen Arctic security and open new economic opportunities while connecting communities.
This combination of trade efficiency and resource potential has turned the region into one of the most strategically significant frontiers of the 21st century. Canada already possesses the world's longest Arctic coastline, but maintaining effective control over such vast territory requires infrastructure, airfields, radar networks, fuel depots, communication systems that can function in temperatures that routinely fall below -40 degrees Celsius. For decades, much of Canada's northern defense relied on cooperation with allies. Now, policymakers are signaling that the future may demand greater national capability. Carney reinforced this theme during his remarks.
We are taking control of our future. We'll no longer rely on others to defend our Arctic security or to fuel our economy.
The government argues that modernizing northern infrastructure will also support economic development, including improved transportation links and communications for remote communities. Officials say the investment will unfold over several years, creating construction employment, defense procurement opportunities, and technological innovation tied to cold weather operations. However, the timing of the decision has drawn particular attention. It comes shortly after renewed political commentary in Washington regarding territorial expansion, resource access, and the evolving strategic role of Greenland, a semi-autonomous Danish territory located between North America and Europe. But here is the deeper question now emerging. Is this defense plan simply a precaution? Or does it signal that Canada believes the geopolitical rules of North America are beginning to change? Because once military infrastructure is built in the Arctic, it is rarely temporary. It shapes security planning, economic corridors, and diplomatic relationships for decades. If you are finding this analysis valuable, remember to subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss future strategic updates. Across the wider Arctic region, several countries have already accelerated their presence. Russia has reopened Cold War-era bases and deployed advanced missile systems. Norway and other NATO members have increased surveillance patrols. China has described itself as a near-Arctic state and invested in polar research and shipping projects. This expanding competition has prompted analysts to warn that the Arctic may transition from a zone of scientific cooperation into a more traditional theater of strategic rivalry. Canada's investment must therefore be understood within a broader pattern of global positioning. The country is seeking to ensure that new sea lanes, mineral exploration zones, and defense corridors remain aligned with national interests rather than being shaped solely by external pressure. Large defense expenditures inevitably carry economic consequences. $32 billion commitment is spread over time. It represents one of the most significant military infrastructure investments in Canada's recent history. Supporters argue that the spending will stimulate domestic industry and enhance technological capabilities in aerospace, logistics, and remote energy systems. Critics caution that the cost could place pressure on federal budgets already balancing social programs, climate initiatives, and infrastructure modernization elsewhere in the country. Investors are also watching closely. Expanded Arctic operations may require new satellite systems, ice-capable vessels, and specialized aircraft, sectors where procurement decisions can influence global supply chains. Politically, the announcement reinforces Carney's emerging image as a leader focused on long-term structural preparedness rather than reactive diplomacy.
We must ensure that the women and men who serve have not only the presence, but also the reach to defend every corner of this region.
By emphasizing sovereignty and self-reliance, the government appears to be signaling to both domestic and international audiences that Canada intends to remain firmly in control of its northern future. At the same time, the move may complicate relations with Washington if rhetoric surrounding territorial influence continues to intensify. Historically, US-Canada defense cooperation has been among the closest in the world, particularly through NORAD and NATO frameworks. Any perception of strategic divergence could introduce new diplomatic sensitivities. Looking ahead, 3 possible outcomes are now being discussed by analysts. First, the investment could stabilize Arctic governance by clarifying national boundaries and reducing uncertainty about who is responsible for security. Second, it could trigger a gradual buildup of military infrastructure across the region, increasing operational readiness but also raising the risk of miscalculation. Third, it may accelerate economic competition for shipping routes and natural resources, reshaping global trade flows in ways that are difficult to predict. What is clear is that infrastructure decisions made today will influence Arctic dynamics well into the 2040s and beyond. Ultimately, Canada's Arctic defense expansion is not just a reaction to political statements. It reflects a deeper realization that geography itself is becoming more fluid as climate, technology, and power politics intersect. By committing billions of dollars to northern bases, Ottawa is attempting to ensure that sovereignty in the Arctic is defined by capability, not assumption. For older viewers who remember Cold War tensions, this moment may feel familiar. Remote regions once considered peripheral are again becoming central to strategic planning, And for younger generations, it may signal the beginning of a new era in which the Arctic is no longer a distant frontier, but a front line of global competition. If you found this report informative, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave your perspective below. The most insightful comment will be pinned at the top so others can continue the discussion. Thank you for watching.